Hey, and welcome to the Drive and Dish podcast. We're here for January the 8th to do our college basketball, our NBA, and our DFS plays of the day. So, what did we have on January 7th? Let's go back over what went down. Our man Dynamite David had a 2-2 overall record. Oregon minus the 3.5 was a loser. Iowa minus 5.5 versus Maryland was a winner. Wisconsin minus 7.5 versus Indiana was a loser. And Stanford minus 9.5 versus Washington was a winner. 2-2 on the day. Overall 42, 43, and 1. It'll have to be one more day to see if he can climb back over Mount 500. But he's getting closer and closer. He's had a really, really hot week. We'll see if he can do it. He has a handful of picks today that he texted in. So let's see if he can hit that. I went 1-2 on the day. A winner with Merrimack, minus 3.5 in overtime versus Sacred Heart. They managed to hold on and win at home. Northern Arizona minus 2.5 was a loser. And what's good is what's bad. Arizona State failed to beat UCLA in overtime. That cost me a win there. That was a loser. So 95, 79, and 1 so far on the year in college basketball. So let's get to today's picks. Our man Dynamite David texted in his picks, and here's what he's got today. Florida International minus 1.5 versus MTSU. Davidson minus 6.5 versus Dayton. Michigan State minus 4.5 versus Purdue. And lastly, his favorite, the Owls out of Rice plus 8.5 versus UTEP. We'll see what Dynamite David does on this Friday college basketball slate. I have a big slate of games today. We're going to go with Toledo minus 3.5 versus Ohio. Probably the two best teams in the MAC battling it out today. I really like Toledo. They played really well. They're on a 6-game winning streak, and I think they're much better than Ohio. So 3.5. Toledo at home. I think they take down Ohio, but this should be a great matchup. The two best teams in the MAC should be an entertaining watch for sure. Next up, we got Quinnipiac minus 3.5 versus Manhattan. Quinnipiac 2-2 so far in the year. Losses to Drexel, who's really probably a pretty solid team, probably much better than Quinnipiac, but I think Manhattan, who's probably the worst in this Metro Athletic Conference, I think Quinnipiac will be able to handle them at home. We'll see if they can come out and put a hurting on them. Quinnipiac with a win over New Hampshire, who's better than Manhattan, and they won by 6, so we'll see if that continues here. Next up, we got Niagara, minus 6.5 versus Rider. Niagara, 4-4 on the year. Been pretty hot and cold, won both matchups versus Fairfield, split the matchups versus Marist, and has a win versus Albany so far in the Metro Athletic. We'll see if they can take down a very, very poor Rider side. I think this Niagara side is really much better. I thought this line was a little low. I think this should be up in the 7 or 8 range, but if they're going to give us 6.5, we'll take it and see if Niagara can put it on Rider here. Next up, we're going down south, and we're going with Appy State minus 2.5 versus Georgia Southern. Appy State 7-4 so far on the year. Pretty decent wins this year. I think they will be able to handle Georgia Southern. They're probably Appy State's a little bit better than Georgia Southern, and I think that home field will give them a little bit of an advantage here. A nice win versus Troy, 90-59, coming off the loss to Troy. I still don't quite know how to factor in those games where they're playing the same team twice on back-to-backs. They'll be playing Georgia Southern today and tomorrow. We'll see if Appy State can get off to a better start this time. First Georgia Southern and win the first game of the head-to-head here. But I like Appy State here. Next up, we're going with Cal Riverside minus 6.5 versus Hawaii. Really like Cal Riverside. 3-1 so far to start the year. Good win over Washington. Wins over Denver and Northern Arizona. Their only loss, a 6-point loss to a pretty good Pacific team. So I think they'll be able to handle it. Hawaii 2-0 so far this year, but they've both been on the island. They haven't been to the mainland yet. This is their first trip to the mainland. So I think they'll struggle to get to the mainland and play the first road game. So I really like Cal Riverside to win big here, minus 6.5. And lastly, we're going to North Dakota State, minus 8.5 versus Nebraska Omaha. North Dakota State has not played great, but they've been able to handle their conference opponents, wins versus South Dakota, North Dakota, and back-to-back wins over Western Illinois. Nebraska, Omaha, probably middle of the pack to lower tier of the pack of the Summit League. So I think North Dakota State will be able to handle them. Tough road game for Nebraska, Omaha. So I look for North Dakota State to have a little bit of advantage. That's why this line is a little bit elevated, but I think they'll be able to handle it and roll. So North Dakota State -8.5. All favorites for me today. That's pretty strange. I usually ride underdogs, but I liked some of the numbers we were getting. So let's move on to the NBA. 0-1 yesterday. Philly did not beat the Nets. Would have been nice to know Curry had COVID before and freaked everybody out by testing positive while he was sitting on the bench. I think that played a little bit of a mental game in the Phillies' heads. But anyway, nonetheless, we move on to today. Big slate of games, 3 games today in the NBA. I like the Washington Wizards +5.5 versus the Boston Celtics. I don't know if they can defend, but they should be able to score points and keep this one at least relatively tight. Charlotte Hornet +5.5 versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Really like the Hornets to keep this game close. Have not been impressed with the Pelicans so far this year. I think the Hornets and Pelicans are about on the same tier of team here. So I think the Hornets will be able to stay within 7.5. And we're going back to the well. Going to take Golden State this time +6.5 versus the Clippers. So you're getting about a 5-point advantage just from a game that happened 2 days ago. So I really like that. So Golden State plus the 6.5 versus the Clippers. So that's our picks for the day. Be sure to follow Dynamite David on Twitter, GLN Dynamite_D, and he'll have more and more picks as the day goes on tomorrow and Sunday. Good follow, the Dynamite there. All right, let's go to our DFS plays of the day. Let's start out in the point guards. Really, I think you could get some value here. The top 2 guys, Russell Westbrook and Steph Curry, I think you could pass on and move down to a much cheaper option in someone like John Wall at 8,500. Really like the matchup here versus Orlando with Markelle Fultz out. Cole Anthony will be getting the start. Look for John Wall to torch him pretty good here. Even though Orlando plays a really good defense and a slow down pace, I don't think Cole Anthony's is ready for what John Wall's going to give him at 8,500. I think that's pretty good value. Further down the list, Terry Rozier at 7,100. Really think that's really good value. Terry Rozier's had a really, really good start to the year. Difficult matchup versus Eric Bledsoe. He's a really solid defender, but Terry has volume and high usage rate, so I think Terry will be really, really solid and still good value at 7,100. Further down the list, we're going to ride with Elfrid Payton, who's been really, really solid with the Knicks so far this year, averaging around 30 fantasy points a game. So 5,500, really good value. Ride Elfrid Payton versus the OKC. The Knicks should continue their really good start to the year. And I spoke about him earlier, guarding John Wall, but Cole Anthony's going to get the start and get the minutes for the Orlando Magic at point guard. Due to the bad injury to Markelle Fultz tearing his ACL. So right now, Cole Anthony getting a start. And if you took him as Rookie of the Year, you might be in luck because I think Cole will be able to score some points in this league. So Cole Anthony, 5,000, pretty good value. Should be able to get some points, at least get to the free throw line. So Cole Anthony, good value here. And DeLon Wright did not have a good game when we talked about him last time out. Hopefully he can have another good game. Hopefully he will have a good game today. We're going to ride him back again, 4,900. We think him and D Rose will be able to get points and minutes here. So DeLon Wright versus the Phoenix Suns. We'll give it one more try with D Wright here. All right, next up to the shooting guards, Jaylen Brown. A must use versus Washington. Terrible defense. Jaylen should go off. And really in shooting guards, once again, much like point guards, I think you could get good value in the middle here. You don't have to break the bank up top for a Harden or Beal or George. Look down. Jaylen Brown, 8,000 is 2,000 cheaper than Bradley Beal and 3,400 cheaper than James Harden. So really, really look for this middle tier here because you might have to spend in small forward and power forward today. So Jaylen Brown, 8,000. Devin Booker versus Detroit at 7,600. Karis LeVert, once again, no Kyrie Irving, no Kevin Durant. It becomes his team. So Karis LeVert at 6,800. Great value. I'd really use Karis LeVert in pretty much all my lineups versus Memphis, who's shorthanded. Dylan Brooks continue to use versus Brooklyn. $6,000. He'll give you a solid outing. Derrick Rose, once again, versus Phoenix, should be able to handle the scoring load there at 6,000. Pretty good value. And Devontae Graham, who's had a low start to the season, started to hit some buckets the other day. His value's down to 5,100. If he could continue to hit that buckets, he becomes pretty good value if he can get back into form like he was last season. So Devontae Graham, pretty good usage there. All right, where are we going? Small forwards. I talked about saving money in point guard and shooting guard with those middle tier guys because small forward, I would not save money. I have all the top guys highlighted: LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, Brandon Ingram, Gordon Hayward. Any of those five guys I would use today. If you can find a way to use both because I think this is where you go definitely today. I think all these guys have really great matchups and should really put up the points. Now, if you're looking to save some money, RJ Barrett slided a little bit further down at 7,400. Good matchup versus OKC. Evan Fournier versus Houston should have a pretty good day at 5,300. He should give you his 17 and probably 5 or 6. So that should be solid enough for $5,300. Joe Harris, big day yesterday. Look for him to handle a lot more of the scoring load with those two guys out at 4,900. That's really good value. So maybe you want to use one of those big ones and then pair him with one of these cheap ones right here. And next up, Rui Hachimura should play a lot of minutes since he's the only one who even seems to think about defense on the Washington side of ball. So they'll need him to play minutes and guard Tatum and Brown. So Rui should get a lot of minutes today. I wouldn't look to see a lot of Davis Bertans. And lastly, on the small forward in the cheap category, Cam Johnson's really been on fire for Phoenix coming off the bench. Actually, a lot of the role guys have really been what's picked up the slack for the Phoenix Suns. A lot of their big-time names have not had the type of start you would thought, especially with Phoenix with the record they have. So Cam Johnson at 4,200, great value there. All right, moving on to power forward. I think you can get a little value here. Julius Randle, 9,400. He's been putting up the same numbers as a Giannis or an Anthony Davis, and he's cheaper. So right now, use him while he's probably one of the best power forwards in the league right now. So use him. I'd also use Christian Wood versus Orlando. Think he has a good matchup there. I don't think they'll be able to handle him. So look for Christian Wood at $9,000 to be good. We've talked about him a couple times now. Chris Bouchard at 6,200 still remains pretty good value. Should get you around 30 fantasy points. From power forward at 6,200. That's pretty good value. But I think the better value is the couple guys lower. Brandon Clark at 5,100. Definitely great value. Definitely eating up minutes right now for Memphis. And just like the way he plays, like his defensive numbers. So 5,100 for Brandon Clark versus Brooklyn. Really nice value there. Next up, Bobby Portis continues to play really good minutes off the bench for Milwaukee. A little bit of a tougher matchup versus Utah today, but the way Utah's been playing, I don't know how tough a matchup it is. But Bobby Portis at 4,800, pretty good. Jay Crowder's been hot the last couple days. If he's still cooking, 4,400 would be a nice way to slot in a really cheap guy. And if that hot streak continues, you'll be in great shape. And lastly, Bella Lita for Sacramento. No real reason, but 3,700. I'm feeling a hot day for Bella Lita. So look for Bella Lita to drain some threes for you. Center-wise, see lots of good centers here. I would not pass up the top two guys, Vucevic and Gobert. Should have really big days. But they are at 88 and 8,400. I think you could get pretty good value down below. Jared Allen's now starting 7,000. think that's really good value. Blocks, rebounds, a handful of dunks. He's essentially DeAndre Jordan, except a younger, better version than DeAndre Jordan now. All right, and moving down, here's where I see some real good cheap value. Thomas Bryant, 6,400, should be able to handle the Boston Celtics, who still struggle to defend centers. So look for Thomas Bryant's efficiency and activity to really mess with the Boston Celtics. Thomas Bryant at 6,100 should be really good value. Mitchell Robinson continues to solidify his case as the Knicks' most minutes getter at center. 5,800, great value there. You get the rebounds, you get the blocks, you'll get a handful of dunks. So really, you're getting that Jared Allen clone, but cheaper. So look for Mitchell Robinson. And on the real cheap side, Brook Lopez down there. Utah plays a big lineup. They go with Gobert. They go with Favors. So look for Brook Lopez to really play a lot of minutes today. And at 4,700, he might hit some threes. He'll definitely block a couple shots. And even though it's not his greatest strength, he might even grab a couple rebounds there. But at 4,700, really good way to slide in some value there at center. Who would I not touch? I didn't really see much in the point guard area that I would absolutely not touch. In the shooting guard, I would stay away from James Harden coming off a 15-point game. I just don't know quite where his head's at. And at 11,400, that's just a way too big a price to pay if he's going to give you 15 points. You need a 50 or 60 from him when you're paying that price. And I just don't know right now if he's going to give it to you. In the power forward section, I had Zion Williamson. I definitely stay away from. Just don't think his value is worth it until that gets into the low 7,000s to 6,000s right now. I don't see how his value is worth it. I see a better value pretty much everywhere else. And lastly, on the centers, Mason Plumlee, I just don't see the value when you got much better guys surrounding him. All right, that's our show for today. Be sure to follow all our podcasts on greenlightnetwork.org. You can follow me on GLNChamp5 on Twitter and Instagram. That's our show, and we're out.